That's it.
Okay.
Perfect. Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Okay. So first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you, to have this opportunity to talk to you over internet and share some ideas about what space is about nowadays, or at least how I perceive it. You might have noticed that I've put on my uniform as an astronaut. I flew in space for Italy some 30 years ago, so it's a long time ago. I was, in fact, the first Italian astronaut, but I put this uniform up because, as a matter of fact, I'm in Torino in the middle of a meeting talking about space. Torino is a place in Italy where many large and small companies work on space activities, on space hardware and software, and so it was appropriate that I put it on. People want to take a picture, etc., etc. Anyway, let's go to the real data, the real affairs. I wanted to tell you what you probably know, that the space economy is now an opportunity basically for everybody. Experts, think tank, counselors of governments estimate that this is going to be a great opportunity in the next few years. The growth expected in this sector is higher than in most of the other economic sectors. I have here a picture which you can take just as an example, by Morgan Stanley, forecasting 1 trillion in 2040 at worldwide level. So from 350 today. So a great growth. Actually, in space, we usually talk about the upstream sector, which is basically the satellites, the stuff which goes in space. The downstream sector, which is all the applications which are used on ground based on the data that we gather from the satellites, plus some other activities correlated to it. I will not spend time on it. Why this revolution? Why this opportunity? I claim that it's due basically to three facts. The first fact is that thanks to the technologies that we have developed, probably with the telephone, the smartphone, we are now able to build satellites which are very, very cheap, relatively speaking, compared to the old satellites that we built 10 years ago. So many more actors can afford to build satellites and maybe even networks of satellites. You probably heard about the networks of satellites by Elon Musk and the like. And it's because satellites can cost now hundreds of dollars instead of millions of dollars. The second fact that drives this satellite blooming is the fact that we have all of us have in our pockets a smartphone, and the smartphone is able to take advantage not only of all the ground data but also of the satellite data. You know the positioning system that allows you to know where you are and where you want to go, what is the best route. So that just to say one, but of course weather forecast and all those applications come from satellite data, and they are in your pocket. So this is a great opportunity. The third fact is now there are some brilliant entrepreneurs who have invested in space. Here is Elon Musk and his Falcon 9 launcher, and the fact that there are new newcomers, not only if governments but also private actors in space, have made the pie, say the amount of dollars available larger. So indeed, space is living in an extraordinary time, and everybody knows that now, and there are a lot of new entrepreneurship initiatives going on. I myself have founded a startup to build to cultivate food in space, and I mean vegetables in space, and it's a great time. Now, one may say, well, but I don't have satellites. I don't know where to start from. Well, there are satellites already in orbit. I quote here Copernicus, which is a set of Earth observation satellites by the European Union. They provide free data, so everybody can use the Copernicus data and build applications useful for Earth observation, for land conservation, for monitoring areas of complex geography, say. Now, of course, this slide is false. I put all the satellites in a circle. It's not the way they fly around Earth, but it's to put them all in one picture. And this is there are two examples. There may be many more of what you can do with the satellite data. The self-driving car is one that is very, impressive. The precision agriculture, which might be even more useful, in fact, so that you can deliver the proper irrigation, the proper fertilizers in a more accurate way. And by the way, by doing that, you also help saving the biosphere, because you don't exceed in the delivery of pesticides and things like that. Anyway, I looked into internet, thinking about this conversation of ours, and found that the Italian Space Agency has signed an agreement with the IILA, the Italian Institute for Latin America, a few months or years ago. Of course, Colombia is part of Latin America, and this means that we have already a connection, if you like, through this institute. But I also noticed that you have signed the agreement with NASA for the Artemis program, which is very ambitious and very interesting. As a matter of fact, this is the other message that I wanted to convey to you. Space is a place of cooperation. The International Space Station is a formidable example of international cooperation. Astronauts from the US, from Europe, from Japan, and from Russia work together, in spite of the fact that now there are some complicated relations, say, with Russia. The Russian astronauts work happily with the Americans aboard the International Space Station. This might be a good example to be exported on Earth. In fact, the International Space Station was an opportunity for us through ESA. ESA is the European Space Agency, as you know only too well. And ESA itself is a good example of fundamental cooperation, because none of the European states taken one by one would have been able to build this extraordinary project, but together we can do that, and this is true also for launchers, for satellites, and so on and so forth. And by the way, we claim that space diplomacy, which is going after other countries, in particular countries who are, in a sense, at the beginning of their development in the space arena, is part of the space policy of the international foreign policy. And I'm sure the Italian government is very sensitive to that, is very active in that respect. There are also new opportunities materializing through the commercial initiatives, like Axiom is represented in this case. Axiom is building an extension of the International Space Station, which will be operated like a private entity. And so I'm not saying that you have to send an astronaut to this outfit tomorrow, but for sure you may be able to send some payloads and involve students, involve schools in these projects, which is also very good in terms of educating youngsters to STEM, to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Those items which are not easy to digest, but which are very important to build an interesting professional life. As I said before, I read in the press of the agreement that you signed with NASA for participating to Artemis. This is very interesting, because it signs that there is already a political will to go after the space activities, and so I can do, but I cannot do but encourage you on this road. In fact, the future is very exciting. We've been talking here in Torino about the lunar economy. In the course of this decade, we will go back to the moon, build new habitats. Now, this is a little bit, maybe not exactly tomorrow, but sure, there will be greenhouses, there will be new setups to make it possible for human beings to live on the moon, in the moon environment. And by the way, by doing that, we will be learning to do things better on Earth. This was underlined during the presentations here. We are not going to the moon just for conquering a new land, but because in this process we will be acquiring many more knowledges which are useful to planet Earth. We don't want to, forget about Earth and build our new house on the moon. We want to learn to keep better care of our planet Earth. And I already mentioned the fact that astronauts and in general, talking about space, is able to excite the imagination of youngsters. I myself organize in my hometown a festival, a space festival, and here we have Antea Comellini. She is the last astronaut selected by the European Space Agency, and of course, when she spoke, everybody was very captive of her words, and she's very good, by the way. But in general, astronauts generate around themselves an extraordinary atmosphere, which drives to more attention, to more engagement. Let me conclude with a personal souvenir. When I was a midshipman aboard Amerigo Vespucci as a servant of the Italian Navy, I had the opportunity to come to Cartagena, and I remember this extraordinary monument of India Catilina, which remains in my memory as a very, very pleasant memory. So I wish with that to you all the best for your endeavors and for your future in space, of course. Thank you so much.
Ya. Gracias, molto grazie, grazie molto. Muchísimas gracias, ha sido una experiencia muy interesante,
Thank you. It's been
emocionante,
very exciting, a pleasure.
y agradecemos mucho el haber dispuesto de su tiempo para acompañarnos hoy en este importante evento para el desarrollo de Colombia hacia el
Thank you for
espacio.
your time. Thank you for your contribution and this significant contribution to our country
Deseamos
in
todo lo
space.
mejor
We wish you the best
sus tareas
in
y
all of your
promoviendo el
endeavors
desarrollo de Italia y de
and
Europa
the
en el espacio
development of
y
Italy and Europe in
igualdad de
space
estos
and
países.
our brotherhood
Tenemos tanto en
between
común con los
countries
países
where we
latinos.
have so much in common with Latin countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ok, podemos, listo. Bueno, excelente. Creo que fue una experiencia bien interesante. Escuchar de primera mano a alguien que ha estado en el espacio, que además fue diputado europeo, eurodiputado, promoviendo el desarrollo espacial, no solamente en su país, sino en Europa, pues creo que nos aporta muchísimo también para la visión. Y como anécdota les cuento que, como bien saben, esta tarde tendremos un maravilloso conversatorio entre el astronauta retirado Franklin Díaz y nuestro compatriota César Ocampo, exdirector de Colciencias. Franklin Díaz y Franco Malerba fueron compañeros de misión en el transbordador espacial, ambos volaron juntos. Y fue coincidencia, simplemente que acudimos al uno y al otro sin saber inicialmente que habían compartido misión. Entonces vamos a tener esta tarde ese también interesantísimo conversatorio. A continuación, le cedemos el espacio. Daniel, te pido el favor